Welcome to the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast, where we break down Bendis' iconic run on Ultimate Spider-Man, issues 1 through 160 in Earth 1610. I'm Zach.
And I'm John.
How you doing today, John?
Excellent. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Nice. How's the end of yours and Shiloh's summer?
Oh my God!
Is she relishing these last couple weeks before school starts?
I didn't even tell you this. So she was supposed to go back to school on Monday of this upcoming Monday. So last Monday she was there setting up her classroom, and she had it 90% finished. Had been there all day, and she got a call from a different principal that she had been in contact with, off and on for a few years now, and it's just never worked out to come to his school. And he offered her a better salary. They have a longer summer, longer breaks, fewer total days in school, and they get more PTO days, and she doesn't have to earn them. She just starts the year out with them.
It's just all around a 100% better job.
It's 10 minutes further away, but yeah, it seems to be a better job. So I had to come straight from work on Monday to her school and help her tear down the classroom that she just set up and move it, and we set up another one. But
what's she going to be teaching?
She is 7th grade English language arts,
which is what she was doing before, right? Or was she
was doing 6th grade, but all subjects. Yeah.
Oh, so is she excited?
I think she is. Yeah. So similar age kids, but kind of different.
Now a more specific
scope.
Group. Yeah.
Yes. So
yeah, I bet she'll like doing that. I feel like.
I think she will too. She's excited about it. She's very excited that she now doesn't have to start school on Monday.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So when does she go back? Beginning of August?
Dude, I don't know.
That's funny.
What about you? When do you go back?
Beginning of August.
Okay.
I know. It's
nice.
Going by too fast.
So last week we asked for suggestions to name John's new kitten.
And oh my gosh, did we get any?
John, you haven't checked the Instagram, have you?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna read you some of these, and it'll be the first time you're hearing them.
Oh my gosh! Okay, here before you do that, I have there's been updated names that I'm keeping in mind, but nothing is really sticking right now. But Reggie for Reggie Miller or Reggie Wayne. Did I say that on the last one?
You might have. Can't remember.
And then Rocket, but sort of for the Guardians Rocket, because that last movie was really good. But also and mostly because he was I was playing Rocket League with some friends, and he was chasing the ball around with his paws. And
that's cute.
So I was like, that's cute. So those are and then I also do just calling it Black Cat. So that's the third name that I might just go with.
I remember you said Jack because of his eyes looking like a jack-o'-lantern.
I'm not doing that anymore.
Oh, okay. All right.
No. Why did somebody say that? Uh-oh.
No, I thought that was unique. I thought
his eyes just don't look as orange anymore. That was a specific look.
Yeah, he's out of that phase.
Yeah.
Okay. So a few name suggestions for this adorable little guy. Loki, T'Challa, Nox, Wicca, Jasper, Sable.
Wait, you have to slow down because my mind was already racing because I Zach, how intimately are we sharing our personal lives? Anyway, I used to foster kittens with this girl, and we were also living together, and we actually had a foster of kittens, and we named one of them T'Challa because it was a little black kitten. So I don't want to do that. But then we also did have a dog that we named Shuri. So we've done the Black Panther ones before. I like those suggestions.
Sometimes I call my wife T'Challa.
T'Challa. That's great.
Okay, so slower. Yes. You want me to start over?
I think I got to Loki and T'Challa.
Okay. Nox, Nox,
Okay.
Wicca,
Okay.
Jasper,
Okay. You don't have to go this slow.
Sable. And none of these got to 1,000 likes. So none of them are
Oh, so
on
none
you.
of them are forced. Okay.
Yeah, you get your choice. Bort. These next few are all mine. Gillette,
Yeah, that's a good one.
Kitty McCatface,
I don't hate that one. That's actually like the closest one I've got.
and Kyle Pitts.
And Kyle Pitts. I don't hate that one either. I wonder if you can make Kyle Pitts into like a cat pun. Like Kyle
Pause.
Litzerbox. I don't know.
At this
Kyle
point,
yeah.
I'm owning it. I know Kyle Pitts is not going to be like the greatest tight end in the NFL while Arthur Smith is his coach. But at this point, I've invested so much into being like the Kyle Pitts cheerleader guy that I'm just going to keep pretending he is.
That's funny. Oh, I might draft him. Well, I like a lot of those names. I like Loki a lot.
Is he troublesome? Does he get into mischief?
He was found under a car, so kind of. Let's see. I liked Jasper a lot. I don't think any of these are gonna make it, but I do like them. Jasper and Sable, those are good ones. Lots of good ones. And if I didn't say yours was good, it's only because I've forgotten it.
Mine were like joke names.
Yeah, I liked Kitty McCatface. Okay, what else do we have before we can get into some Spider-Man?
Well, if we're cool with getting into more sports, have you watched?
Listeners, skip ahead. Zach, do you put time codes in the video? Do we need to start doing that?
I don't think you can do that on most platforms.
Okay. We'll just go with you can't do it.
Well, maybe they'll like this. I don't know. Have you watched the Omaha Productions Netflix show Quarterback? Yeah. Me and Shiloh have been getting into that the last few nights.
Is it pretty good?
I like it.
Okay. The only things I've heard about it is that it's pretty boring. Like
really,
the QBs they have on maybe aren't very. Who are some of the ones they have on?
Kirk Cousins, Marcus Mariota, and Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, so I don't know. No, I have not seen it. I also did not know it was a Peyton Manning thing until like yesterday.
Yeah,
I had heard about it for the last like week and a half or so, but I didn't know Peyton Manning was doing it. So I'll probably check it out. Is it on ESPN?
It's like his brainchild. It's on Netflix.
Ooh.
But it's cool. You just get like an inside look into their life, like how much they study, how often they get hurt, like what they do to train, stuff like that.
Oh, dude. I bet it's a lot.
It's
I bet
crazy.
They're working hard.
Yeah.
Like, man, I bet Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were always watching film. Like,
I wish I could have seen this type of show for
about Peyton Manning.
And
yeah,
watch him just like, falling asleep studying and watch Tom Brady eating like tree roots and berries and stuff and living like a caveman to stay young forever.
Well, now I bet every QB is like studying their butt off. But if you did this in like 2006, you'd have an episode of Peyton Manning like studying the entire time. And then you just go to like Brett Favre and he'd be like drinking and hanging out. And like, these are the two best quarterbacks in the league. It's a real Tiger Woods versus John Daly. That's a golf thing, Zach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you heard the story that Brett Favre was like well into his NFL career and a coach was like talking to him and he's like, okay, so when you see nickel formation, here's what you do. And Brett Favre had to ask his backup quarterback, what is nickel?
Dude, I had never heard that, but that goes perfectly with the comparison I just said, knowing very little about Brett Favre. Let me see, Zach, if I've got any notes on things we should talk about before or after we get into this. I know we have a couple things. Oh, have you ever heard of this thing in Rambo where they thank the Mujahideen soldiers at the end of the movie?
No.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it was like back when... yeah.
It's no big deal,
and
man.
I'll put that on a poster, okay? So it's... It was like back when apparently the Mujahideen, which I'm not super familiar with this stuff at all, but that's like the Bin Laden guys from Afghanistan. And it was back when the Russians and communism were invading, and the Mujahideen were fighting against
we funded them.
Yes.
We sold them arms and trained them and stuff. Yes.
And at the end of Rambo, it says... this film is dedicated to the brave Mujahideen soldiers, blah, 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 whatever. I don't know the exact words, but that's the gist of what it said. And I was trying to explain this to the gym teacher who I go golfing with and who's like pretty old. He's probably never going to listen to this podcast, I don't know, dude. It was just like trying to speak in I saw
he was so old he didn't know world affairs from the 80s.
No, it was just it was trying to explain this thing I saw on the internet that the end of the Rambo movie says this thing and the Mujahideen are like Bin Laden stuff, and it's you try to explain that to someone who doesn't know. It's I don't know. I gave up pretty quickly. I was anyway, it was just something I heard, blah, blah, blah.
That sounds so offensive with no context. It's they were Bin Laden stuff, but they genuinely are I think they're the precursor to Al-Qaeda.
Okay,
right?
But if I didn't see that specific thing about Rambo, I would not know what that group was. If I heard that name, I'd be someone would have to explain that to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, after 9/11, it did become a big retroactive thing where people were wait a minute, didn't we train these guys and arm them and celebrate them 10 years ago?
Well, and I was talking to him and I'm not an expert on the subject, and I don't know how much of an expert he is on the subject. So I'm also not really speaking in 100% certainties. I'm I think that they're the Bin Laden group from before. And anyway, Zach, I've got some other things about the gym teacher. I also that same day had to explain to him what Venmo was. And we saved a turtle that we found in the fairway and we put it back in the water. So it was a good day all around.
That is awesome. Yeah. I just Googled it. They might have been the Taliban, which is different from Al-Qaeda. But either way, it's someone we eventually went to war with.
Yeah. Okay, good. So you have seen that thing about Rambo. That was my point.
I had not seen that.
Oh, you hadn't? Yeah.
No.
That's why if you watch The Boys in this last season, Soldier Boy is tied up in one of his old movies that he made, and he's tied up, kind of being threatened, and he's I just want to say thank you to our brave Mujahideen soldiers for and it's a Rambo thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think people have just joked about that a lot. I've seen I don't remember which one, if it's The Onion or Hard Times or what, but there was a satirical headline I saw on Twitter one time where it's 10 times in Friends that Ross says Al-Qaeda poses no threat to the United States.
No, that's not true, right?
It's absolutely not true, but it's just playing off of that same joke.
That's
of
funny.
Historically, the United States, we end up arming and training a lot of people that end up being our enemies later down the road.
Yeah.
We just don't learn.
Yeah. That's a whole nother podcast
that we're probably not qualified to do.
I was going to say, I'm not. Yeah. I don't know enough about geopolitical affairs to go any deeper than how it relates to pop culture.
We might have already overreached with this.
Yeah.
I say we get into some Spider-Man.
Okay, definitely.
But first, a word from Better Business Bureau.
Every business says they're better. But the ones that earn and display the BBB seal back it up. It instantly identifies businesses that are committed to operating with integrity, honoring promises, and telling the truth. Makes you wonder why every business doesn't have it. So look for it, because it's looking out for you. That's why it's the sign of a better business. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
We're back.
So we're getting into Ultimate Spider-Man issue 43. This is written by Brian Michael Bendis, penciled by Mark Bagley, and inked by Art to Bear. And I would assume it's also colored by Transparency Digital and lettered by Chris Iliopoulos, but we don't actually know because it doesn't say in the issue.
There's no page.
I know. I was disappointed.
But the issue is called Help, because famously Peter Parker loves the Beatles. Spiders and Beatles get along really well.
Yeah. So we open on a chemistry teacher, and I already know John's going to love this scene. We open on the chemistry teacher at Midtown High asking where Peter Parker is. And he says, the only one of you jokers who pays an ounce of attention, and he skips the class. I saw him in the hallway. Why isn't he here? And
that would stink. You know, one of the troublemakers wants to skip class. All right, see ya.
I have a hard time believing Mary Jane doesn't pay an ounce of attention in this class, but whatever.
Yeah. Gwen Stacy is smart.
She's smart, but I could see her not applying herself.
Yeah.
Especially after her dad just died.
Kind of.
Dude. Okay. She is smart.
She's
no bimbo.
I was joking. No, I didn't say that.
Sexist John over here.
I was making a joke about how she is smart, but she doesn't pay attention.
Right. Well, speaking of Gwen, she says, doesn't he get like all A's? So big whoop. And the teacher says, you'll pardon me, Miss Stacy, if I don't take disciplinary advice from the likes of you.
Actually, you know what? I don't side with this teacher here, and I'm going to go back against what I said, because when the kids who do everything and are on the ball skip class, it really isn't an issue. I mean, don't come after me. It is an issue, but they always make up their work. It's the kids who are already not paying attention. When they miss class, then it does become a huge problem, because now they're getting behind in everything, and it's very frustrating as a teacher. I'm sure Shyla feels the same way.
Listeners, I did him a favor and cut it out, but John actually just unprompted ranked the top 10 students in his class that he's fine with skipping a day.
Yep, that happened.
I didn't know any of them. It was pretty weird.
Yeah, first and last name.
So I just think it's so funny that the teacher says, you'll pardon me if I don't take disciplinary advice from the likes of you.
Funny.
Like, that's so nasty to a girl that just lost her dad. But all he knows about her is this is the chick that pulled a knife on a student.
Yeah.
Gwen whispers to Mary Jane, he's your boyfriend. Why am I taking the hit for this? Which is also funny. And MJ tells the teacher, he has a stomach thing. And Gwen tells Mary Jane, good one. And the teacher starts lecturing Mary Jane on what she should tell Peter about skipping class. And he's interrupted by an announcement over the intercom. Because of the mutant attack at the other nearby high school, Midtown is closing early for the day for safety purposes.
Okay, do you have any thoughts on... And well, not only are they closing early, but they're like, okay, there's a bunch of buses outside, everybody go home.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't understand that. If they closed every time something bad happened in New York, no work would get done in the Marvel universe.
Well, in this square block of space, yeah, they'd be out of school constantly.
And it's it's one mutant that attends that other school that was blowing up cars. It's not like a coordinated attack against the high schools.
It's just someone blowing up cars at a high school, okay? It's just not like a school shooting or anything.
It's innocent fun.
What they would actually do is they would definitely go into lockdown. There's no way they would be like, everybody go outside and go home. There's an attack a couple blocks down the road.
Also, just in the last issue, the kids were talking about, hey, should we leave the school and go over to that other one to watch? So it's like, if you cut all these high schoolers loose, at least some of them are definitely going to run towards the danger.
Yeah. Yep. Silly.
Very silly. But that's where the story goes. That's what happens. So the classroom erupts with cheers, and the students get up and start walking as the teacher yells at them to stay seated, which felt very real. John, did that feel a little too real to you? Like, the bell doesn't dismiss you, I dismiss you.
Yeah, I'm usually so ready for them to be out of class.
You're not one of those guys.
And there's the bell. See ya.
Yeah, this guy...
I'm a good teacher, okay? You know, I don't think any other parents of the kids are going to be listening to this, but...
Just in case they do, you are a good teacher.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah. I don't think this chemistry guy is. He strikes me as the type of dude that, like, gets an ounce of authority and has to wield it.
Yep.
But anyways, Gwen says mutants under her breath. And on the very next page, we see Spider-Man and Geldoff, with Geldoff looking shocked at the X-Men and saying, mutants! So just funny little, like, parallel there. And Storm, Kitty, and Jean from the X-Men are standing there smiling, and Jean says, where? And they introduce themselves and confirm that Geldoff is a mutant too, and that's why they're there. And Geldoff faints from shock. And Kitty asks,
Is Jean Grey's name Marvel Girl?
Yeah, that's her code name.
I always thought Jean Grey was her code name. Or
people
Phoenix.
Sure use it like that. Yeah. I mean, she like stops and restarts using Marvel Girl sometimes.
I'm not a fan.
You don't like it?
I don't. I can see why Jean Grey sticks and Marvel Girl doesn't.
Yeah. Well, also, eventually she grows up. Like, when she first started getting called Marvel Girl, she was like 16 and being written by Stan Lee.
Okay.
But here, she's also kind of young. I think she's like 19 or something in the Ultimate Universe. So she can still be Marvel Girl.
Okay.
So Kitty asks, did he not know he was a mutant? And Peter says, from what I can tell, he was actually pretty much in denial. And Kitty whips her head around at him and asks, are you really Spider-Man? And Peter says, shh, don't tell anyone. And she says it's an honor to meet him, and she's a huge fan. And Peter's like, you are? And then Jean says Kitty has a poster of him on her wall, and Peter's like, wait, they sell posters? And he warns them that when Geldoff wakes up, he might be a little mutant phobic. And Jean telepathically tells Peter, you did a good job trying to talk to him. And this freaks him out, and he yells. And then she telepathically says, sorry, and he yells again. And she explains to him, still telepathically, that she's projecting her voice inside his head, and he can just think to communicate with her. But he keeps talking out loud because he's clearly not used to it, or comfortable with it. And she just keeps insisting on doing it, and she says, it's not that big of a deal. In fact, you're the first guy in 6 months who hasn't immediately pictured me naked, so I appreciate that. And then I think this is her fault. I think she, like, inceptioned that thought into his head, because Peter looks down and Jean says, until now. And Peter says, sorry. And Jean asks, are you done? And he starts scratching his head and says, I'm done. And Jean keeps giving him different looks that range from angry to confused to surprised. As Peter says, okay, now I'm done. Okay, now. Okay. Now.
A little bit too long of the joke, but
yeah, it lingers.
Yeah.
I just think it's crazy that she decides, oh, we're going to talk telepathically now. And he's like, I'm not comfortable with this. And she's like, It's fine.
Stop
I
it.
say so. Look, I'm in your head.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. Like I do this with everyone,
Don't
and I
picture
see
me
all
naked.
their dirty thoughts. Don't picture me naked, by the way. Oh no, you're picturing me naked. Like, it's such an invasion of privacy, and she just does not even care a little bit.
Yeah, that's
which
true.
I think is very funny. I think that's very 616
I
Jean
know
Grey.
that. I know that you think invading people's privacy is funny. I know we've talked about that before. So,
oh my god, shut up! I think it's funny that she doesn't think there's anything wrong with it. So Geldoff wakes up and sees Spider-Man, Storm, Kitty, and Jean standing over him, and he screams and faints again. And Jean says, "Okay, that time was my fault." And Storm asks what she did, and Jean says, "I was just saying hi." And Storm's like, "With your mind?" And Jean says, "Yes." And Storm says, "No wonder."
Were you trying to like picture what it would be like while you were reading this? Like,
to picture Jean Grey naked?
Yes. No. To picture, like, if someone were talking to you in your head, what it would be like. That would be pretty weird, you know? Like, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it is interesting. Like,
it would be like a booming coming from inside your head.
Well, I'm wondering if it would even just be voice, or would you also see pictures and stuff? Or would they? Would it be a voice for you, but they see what you're visualizing? Because clearly she can see what Peter's visualizing. Could she also project to him? I don't know. It's presented many different ways in comics, and I always think it's interesting.
That's really interesting.
I love a good telepathy bit.
Well, they can project. I think she can, like, project, right? Because
I know she can, but I don't know if she always is. You know, can she also turn it off here?
Yeah. Maybe she was projecting herself naked, and then she's always like, "Great, they're picturing me naked again."
I just think it's pretty easy for him to do, considering she's, you know, already a redhead.
What does that have to do with what?
Because he's dating a redhead.
Oh my gosh, Zach! I
don't think it's a far jump for him.
Okay,
thinking about Mary Jane to thinking about Jean Grey.
Okay, I get it.
Does that make sense?
It does.
So the girls start asking what they're going to do with Geldoff, and Jean says it won't look good for their cause when the police arrest him. And Storm mentions they don't even know if he's a mutant. And Peter presses them on this, rightfully, and says, "Wait, what? He's not a mutant? Because you just said he was. Is he a mutant or not?" Which I was so happy for, because I was thinking the same thing. And Jean telepathically calls out for Professor Xavier, and he responds to all of them, including Spider-Man. And he says, "Good morning, angels. I was monitoring your mission, but I have my hands full back here. Usually I would say let's go through the proper authorities, but this is a special case. If we leave him, the police will be involved, and I really would like to examine him. But technically it is kidnapping." So, a lot to unpack here. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I don't think that it's really kidnapping. Like, he was like blowing up cars in front of the school, and he's a mutant. Isn't this what they do?
Well, it's what they do, but he's also a minor, and they have no authority.
Well, they kind of do. They're superheroes.
They don't have a superhero badge. They're mutants. No one likes them.
Jeez.
They just have their own, like, building.
A little human-phobic.
Yeah.
Okay. That was kind of my thought. I was like, yeah, just bring him back. It's no big deal.
Did you like the Charlie's Angels bit?
Yeah, I did. I was kind of wondering if that was a Charlie's Angels joke for the reader, the audience, or was Professor Xavier knowingly doing a Charlie's Angels joke?
Oh, he knew what he was doing, yeah.
Okay.
But it also really works out that, like, his name is Charles.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just got that. Charlie's Angels. Wow.
Yeah. I liked that. I was
I love it. Now I do love it.
Yeah. there's been a lot of X-Men comics, and I'm surprised no one had made that joke before.
Yeah.
Unless they had, and I missed it, and Bendis just like stole someone's joke. But it feels very authentic and like good for the situation.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man questions what Xavier just said, and he repeats, technically it's kidnapping. And the X-Men decide they are going to bring Geldoff to the school. And Kitty invites Peter to come with them so he can see the school. And we kind of get a hint that Kitty might have a crush on him. There's some like hearts around her head as she asks him. And Peter asks if he can get a ride back before 6. And when they say yes, he agrees to come. And back at Midtown, there's commotion on the front lawn of the school as parents arrive and try to find their kids to pick up. And
See, that's why you wouldn't do that. Because it's pandemonium outside now.
It is. And Mary Jane's mom tackle hugs her, and Aunt May walks up at the same time asking where Peter is. And Mary Jane's like, oh, he was just here. And Gwen walks up and says, no, he wasn't. And MJ tries to salvage her lie, and she says, no, he really was. He was just... And Gwen's like, I've been here the whole time, so where is he now? And...
Okay, so what do you think of Gwen's behavior here? Is she doing the right thing, or is she totally snitching? Like, obviously, MJ and Peter are up to something, and that's why MJ's lying. So, Gwen, you just gotta, like, go with the flow.
She is snitching, but also, like, she's... I think
but also her friend is missing during a thing.
And I think that's part of it. She's like, yeah, we really don't know where he is, and like there's maybe reason to be worried about where people are right now. But also I think she doesn't like that she's not in on whatever's happening.
Yeah.
Like if Peter had told her something, if Peter had been like, hey, this kind of sucks, I think I'm going to get out of here, I think she would have also lied for him.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely would have. That's true.
But I just think it's funny that she's like,
oh, wow. So that's a strike against her.
She's like, I know. I'll say it again. She's not a bad person, but she is a rival with Mary Jane. And it's kind of funny that she takes this chance to undercut her.
Well, I don't really remember what happens in the rest of this issue and the next one, but I was thinking at the beginning, oh, that's fun. They're kind of having fun in class together. When she's like, you're his boyfriend. Why am I taking the hit? It's like, oh, she is really friends with them. You know, kind of how it seemed.
They don't like each other, but they don't hate each other. You know, I think they have come to the understanding that through Peter and like whatever other mutual friends, they have to be around each other a lot, but they don't like it. And I think I think it's really fun.
That is fun.
I love seeing like all the girls of this series. They're so freaking fun.
I know you love drama.
Yeah. Get your popcorn out.
Yep.
So they're all wondering where Peter is, and of course he's on the X-Men's plane, which this bothered me, John. In this universe, it's a B-52 stealth bomber instead of a Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird, as we all know it should be.
We were both thinking the same thing.
I knew you would pick up on that.
Yeah.
When I was a kid.
It is stupid.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Art to bear.
No, it would have been Bagley.
It's all of them, Zach. It's a team effort, okay?
The whole damn team is culpable for this. John, have you ever been to the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio?
Maybe.
I don't know. Lasting impact, I see.
I've been to some places before where there's like big planes. So
that's called an airport, John.
Yep. Yeah.
I just asked because that's how I instantly recognized these planes. Like growing up, my dad really liked I don't know, World War II and military stuff and history. And he took me to the Air Force Museum like all the freaking time. And I asked him recently, what was that about? Because I'm serious. We probably went 10 different times, and it's like a couple hours away from where we live. And he told me, well, winter kind of sucks in Indiana. I couldn't take you to the pool. I couldn't take you, camping or anything, but I could take you to a museum in Ohio.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this plane is what? And what's it supposed to be? Just so to tell our listeners one more time.
Yeah, it's a B-2 bomber.
Yeah.
But normally the X-Men have a Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird.
Well, I don't like that because Lockheed is that gun company, right? So maybe this will hurt their stock.
But it is funny. It is important that it's made by Lockheed, because I don't know if you know anything about Kitty Pryde in the main universe. She has like a little purple pet alien dragon who's named Lockheed.
Oh,
and he's named after their plane.
Oh, well, this is a big error.
Yeah.
Listeners, send in your emails.
But also, I just don't think the stealth bomber looks cool.
Yeah,
it's just like a triangle.
Two planes, though.
Two very expensive planes.
Yeah.
So they're on the plane and they're talking about Peter's goofy costume, and he explains that he lost his other one in a fight. And Kitty gets excited and she's like, "Oh, so were you fighting him naked?" And Jean asks Xavier something about Wolverine, which is weird because it's like, I think she said it out loud. So she's like talking, two telepaths are talking over a radio, instead of talking telepathically, which we know she loves doing. But she mentions something about, hey, have you found Wolverine yet? And Peter's like, oh, hey, I know that guy. And they get a fun little thing where they're like, Logan? He's like, yeah, I met him a couple times. And they're like, do you know where he is? And he's like, is he missing? And Geldoff wakes up and sees where he is and who he's with. And he freaks out and his powers go off, blowing a hole in the side of the plane. And back at Midtown...
See, Zach, this is why they didn't do the Lockheed. Because they didn't want to have to destroy the X-Men's plane.
Which gets destroyed all the time anyways.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah. That and the mansion are like never safe. And you see that in the X-Men movies. One of those two things.
I was gonna say, isn't that like a thing that the X-Men mansion's like always getting destroyed or something? Or
it happens frequently in the comics, but like it feels like once every Fox movie, their plane or their house is getting blown up.
Yeah.
So back at Midtown High, Aunt May calls the Daily Bugle looking for Peter and gets transferred a few times before the call gets hung up on. And meanwhile, the plane is falling apart midair. And I didn't catch this at first, but like later on a different page, I was like, why does he have webs on his mouth? As the plane is falling apart, Peter webs Geldoff in the mouth, presumably to keep him from screaming. And Storm gets sucked out, but starts flying because she can do that, and tries to redirect the plane using her control of the wind. And Peter grabs Kitty and sticks to the ceiling of the plane. And Storm seems to stop the momentum of the plane, but this launches Peter and Geldoff through the cockpit window, and they start falling towards Earth as the issue ends.
This is really bad foresight by the X-Ladies, if I do say so, because shouldn't they have been a little bit prepared for this? That's what the guy's powers are, is like telepathically blowing stuff up. And I mean, that is just maybe not the smartest way to transport him.
Yeah, they put him on a plane while he was passed out against his will, and he's scared of mutants. Like,
yeah,
it would have taken no time at all to like wake him up or let him wake up on his own, and then
or just like telepathically keep him asleep
or keep him calm. I was gonna say Jean Grey could do that. She could like calm him down mentally.
Okay, so what did you think though?
I mean, I thought this was kind of fun.
Yeah,
some of it was hard to follow, like the whole he's a mutant, he's not a mutant. Why are they here if he's not a mutant? They showed up here with no game plan. They're like, so are we taking him back or not? Like, you would think all of that would have been hashed out by the time they stepped onto a plane to go there.
Yeah.
And then the crash did feel a little forced, but I liked all the banter.
Yeah. I liked it too. I thought it was a quick read. It was only 20 pages. But I didn't think very much happened, you know.
Yeah.
It was like they showed up and then they were just going to take him to the X-Men mansion, and he's still not there.
Some things felt a little rushed or like there just for fun, not for any purpose. Like the conversations on the plane serve no purpose, but they're just kind of fun.
Ooh, here's something that I wrote so go back to the pages where Gwen and Mary Jane are like outside the school. I said I think that Gwen is figuring out that Peter is Spider-Man based on what Mary Jane is saying and being like he was just here, you know, like she knows he's lying about stuff, and it seemed like she was throwing it. Oh, it was this one. It was at page 12, the very bottom one, I think. Because she's spying on Mary Jane, and Mary Jane is asking people about Spider-Man showing up at the other high school, and she's like watching her in the background.
I see what you're saying. I don't know that she's spying on her, and also
She's
I don't
not
even
spying on her. She's eavesdropping into what they're saying.
I can't even tell if she's within earshot there. I think she's walking up towards her, but the reason I don't think Gwen is suspicious of Peter being Spider-Man at all is because she loves...
And you know what happens?
Well, no, because she loves Peter, but hates Spider-Man. She still blames Spider-Man for the death of her dad.
Oh, that's true.
As recently as like when they were at that party, she said something about it.
That's true. It's not the bottom panel, by the way. It's actually it's like more the top three. You know, she shows up and she's listening to them Spider-Man, and then Mary Jane shows up and asks, and Gwen is like leaning against the pole, like watching them.
Yeah,
and
I can kind of see that.
So, you know, I guess maybe she's not, but anyway.
Did you notice 2 fun little Easter eggs on that big panel next to it?
No.
So look at the kids down by the bus. One of them has a shirt with the X-Men logo on it.
Nice.
And then another one...
Ska.
It seems like it's supposed to say Ska Dork.
Wow. Zach, you know, if you zoom in right next to the school, the people no longer have faces. Like specifically one guy walking down the steps. I don't know. Just give him some eyes and a mouth.
I like that the principal is on the steps of the school.
He's got a bullhorn.
With a megaphone, yes. Bus driver, move that bus.
Well, I did think this one was fun, but I didn't really think it was anything too special. I gave it a 7 out of 10, and I don't have a grading scale.
7 out of 10, student skipping class.
Okay. Nice. Yep, that works.
I am right there with you. Like, I know objectively it's not a great issue, but it's just, it's fun seeing X-Men stuff.
That's
even
what
though
I figured you'd say.
Crappy Ultimate Universe X-Men, but like, I mean, I like this better. I like their appearances in Ultimate Spider-Man way better than I like their actual series.
Yeah.
It's a little disappointing that like Storm sucks so bad in this universe. She has like one line in this whole issue, and I'm like, no, Storm's like supposed to be like, she should be the leader. She should be like the alpha in these scenes and like know what to do and be in control of the situation. And here she just kind of sucks.
Well, and they're just kind of like flirting with Spider-Man the whole time. You know, Jean Grey's talking about her being naked, and Kitty Pryde's just like openly like flirting with hearts going on around her. And it's like, aren't these people supposed to be X-Men, like superheroes? Not just like teen crushes or something?
Yeah, keep it professional.
Yeah.
They are like younger in the Ultimate Universe than normal. So they're not like Storm and Jean Grey aren't that much older than Peter here, and Kitty's probably exactly his age. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your ranking? We got a 7 out of 10 and a
I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 also.
2 7 out of 10s.
Yeah. Not technically, like, proficiently, like, a great issue, but it's got stuff I like.
Yeah. Yep. Issue 44. Tampered. That's what it's called. Peter's behind the X-Men logo. And this is just by the regular creative team. So back at the Parker home, Aunt May is worried sick, and she gets a call from that chemistry teacher from before that's upset about Peter missing class. And he lets Aunt May know that Peter was gone before the incident even happened, which is kind of a red flag. And Gwen swears to Aunt May that she doesn't know where Peter is, and May begins to shout towards the basement for Peter to open the door, just like in case he's down there. She starts banging on the door, and she grabs a fire extinguisher and breaks the knob off the door, and she stands at the top of the stairs to the basement like a horror villain.
Yeah, she really is. She's in, like, complete silhouette.
Yeah. So Aunt May breaks the knob off the door, and then we cut to Peter in an X-Men building with kind of like a stained glass church-looking building with a big X-Men symbol at the top of it. And someone off-screen asks him what he's reading, and he's like, oh, this is the Kingpin book. Ben Urich wrote this. I've been meaning to read it. And then we see that person asking him, it's a hologram version of Professor X. And he's like, well, it's time to wake up now. And Peter wakes up in a doctor's office surrounded by the X-Men. I was really glad that the stained glass place was not real, because I had already written, that's a weird thing to have in the X-Men mansion, like a church worshiping the X-Men logo.
Well, it looks like a library, like a really old-timey, like a cathedral that got converted into like a library or something.
Yeah.
What I was wondering from this scene is he's in like his mindscape. And he's not.
Professor X looks like a 16-year-old boy in a suit who's like standing.
Oh, yeah.
I think he looks pretty funny.
But what I'm interested in is he has not read Ben Urich's book, but he thinks he's reading Ben Urich's book. Someone put that book in there. Is he just making up a book in his mind, or is he actually reading something?
If he went and compared the first page, would it be, oh my gosh, Zach, that's a really good...
Is he?
I would love to know that. I would love to know how deep Professor X's like psychic powers goes.
Right.
You know,
is Peter like subconsciously inserting him into the story since he took down Kingpin? Like, is the whole first chapter about like, well, Peter Parker woke up that day.
I couldn't have done it without my buddy Spider-Man. Zach, that reminds me of a really good Doctor Who episode, if I can tangent for a second and potentially spoil this Christmas episode from like 5 or 6 years ago. But it's like a dream episode kind of, and the Doctor shows up and he's like on this space station, and it turns out they are all a part of the same psychic dream, and they're like figuring it out as they're going on that this is happening. And the way that they figure it out is the Doctor's like, you all got instruction manuals when you got here, right? Everybody flip to a random page. What's the first word on that page? And they all have different words because, you know, the books are not real. They've all just like mental. So, and that's how they're like, it's like the mind blowing moment that you're like, oh, there it's not, you know? So it's a pretty good one. Anyway, can we just talk about Doctor Who all day?
Which Doctor was that? Which actor?
That was my favorite Doctor, Peter Capaldi.
Okay, the old guy.
The old guy. Yep.
Gotcha.
I really hope he comes back this November. It's the 60th anniversary, and he's kind of been saying he hasn't been wanting to come back. He's like really happy with how he left, and like, but man, I want him to come back so badly.
Listeners, you heard it here. In November, you're going to find out either John's going to be really happy or really mad.
No, I won't be really mad. No, I won't. But in November is when we should do a Doctor Who bonus episode before the 60th comes out.
It'll be fun. It'll be a lot of John talking and me going, well,
Well, that doesn't make me want to do it very much.
No, I'm interested to hear.
You'll have to check out some episodes beforehand.
I've watched maybe most of the Matt Smith stuff, like out of order.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure he will come back in November.
Yeah.
And David Tennant is definitely back.
I know people like him.
Yep. So, okay. So Peter was reading a book. Really good thought, Zach. And he wakes up and he's in this X-Men doctor's office. And Storm and Jean Grey kind of recount to him what happened and how they saved him and Gelfond. Is it Gelfond? What's his name? Geldoff. I have it written in my notes here, Gaston, Gelfond. I could not remember what it was, and I didn't feel like going back and looking for it. And they haven't said his name yet, so I just
blows up cars like Geldoff.
Gelfond. That's Gelfond.
Geldoff.
No, blows up cars like Gelfond. Oh, okay. His name is Gel. Okay, I thought you meant the. Yep.
What are we doing?
I thought you meant the Beauty and the Beast guy.
That's Gaston.
That's Gaston. Yeah.
Who's Gelfond?
I don't know. It's what I wrote in my notes. Okay. Sorry. I guess I don't have these names straight.
Maybe that's what you named the black cat, Gelfond.
Gelfond? That actually, yeah. Okay. I'll add it to the list.
Yeah.
So,
you're not really going to.
But, there was no tension in this. Even when the plane exploded and they were panicking, I'm like, how would these guys be in trouble? This is a plane of 4 superheroes. They're going to be fine. This is like another day at the office, right? I mean, could a plane crash happen to a better group of people? I'm just
Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Donald Trump.
Yeah, because
Andrew
they're superheroes, they'd be able to make it out. Exactly. Have you seen the Reddit post about the guy who was like, hey, I know that this is going to be unpopular, but I just feel like I would have survived on the submarine. I know that scientifically there's no way I would have, but I just honestly believe that I'm built different and I would have survived. And it's good for you, man. Yeah. Maybe you would have.
Yeah, that was so funny.
So they recount to Peter how they saved him, and Peter's like, you guys took my mask off. Nobody respects my secret identity. And
it's the same thing that he went through with Doctor Strange and Wong in that team up issue. When they're like, you were unconscious, we had to give you medical attention. And he was like, but now you know who I am. And they're like, no, we don't.
Yeah, wait, doesn't he say his name? He's like, everyone knows I'm Peter Parker. And they're like, well, now we do.
How would we have known that just based off of your face?
But it is funny. That's also when he meets the Fantastic Four in the worst drawn episode ever, by Jim Mafood. He also is going through the thing, and they're like, 16-year-old Peter Parker, and he's like, everybody knows that, the robot does.
Yeah, everyone figures him out.
So back at the Parker basement, Aunt May is snooping around, but she's unable to get into his computer without the password. And for a couple of panels, we see it zooms in on something on Peter's desk. Zach, what is that? Can you clue me in on what it's trying to get us to look at? Because I looked hard and I did not see anything.
So it's the shape of a teardrop, right? And it looks like it's made out of glass. I think that's his eye lens.
Oh,
because remember it fell out when he was helping that lady that was getting robbed.
That is what that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a clue that could have led her to figuring out he's Spider-Man, but
I hope she does.
She looked all around it and missed it.
I'm just sick of this. I'm sick of them having this between them.
I would think that there would be other stuff laying around that's more obvious than that. Like,
Definitely.
she would be going through drawers and stuff, and she would find a web shooter or something.
Yeah. She doesn't really snoop that hard. It's almost like she like goes into snoop, and then she maybe kind of starts to, and then she's like, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm just going to turn and walk away.
Yeah.
Or maybe she just didn't find anything and she left.
I think she specifically came for the computer thinking like maybe he has an email or something on his calendar. She probably didn't think, an answer to where he is in that moment would be like, hidden somewhere else.
Yeah. So Geldoff has been strapped up to the machine to examine him, and he's in a great mood because Xavier gave him a happy thought. And he says the reason that they need to bring him in is because Xavier can't detect if he's a mutant or a human, which he believes is a result of a mutant-human genetic experiment. And then he's done a good bit of thought on this, and I thought it was pretty interesting, that he thinks somebody injected the mutant gene into the placenta of a pregnant woman, and that's illegal to do in most places, including Latveria, where Geldoff is from. And Geldoff kind of gives his best like Keanu Reeves impression, and he's like, no way.
What?
Yeah. I said Geldoff in his like happy mood, he kind of is like stoned, is what it seems.
Yeah, I think that's the implication. It looks like he's under like anesthesia.
Yeah. And Hank McCoy / Beast and Xavier start talking all sciencey about why someone would do this and how they would do this. And Peter asks the real question, which is, if someone went through the trouble of this, why is he here now just at some random high school in Queens blowing up cars? And Xavier tells him that the experiment was probably done without permission and was abandoned before Geldoff showed any like mutant powers. But Xavier vows to find out what happened to him. And he actually says that like a couple different times this issue. He's like, I promise I will find out what happened. And me as the reader, I was kind of like, okay, I trust you. Like, yeah, I know you will. You don't have to keep. Maybe he just thinks Peter doesn't believe him, and he can read his mind. So maybe he, And Peter asks Xavier what he's going to do with Geldoff, and Xavier says he's going to present him at medical conferences, which I did also think was like a pretty funny response to that question.
And then he's going to present him at enough of those until he figures something out, and then he's going to present him and the medical people to the UN. And did you ever watch Scrubs? No.
It reminded me of a Scrubs episode where they're all trying to like get the best patient to present at a medical, or like to have like a paper written about them so they can present at some medical conference. And that's just what this reminded me of. And it was like everyone trying to get the best thing. He's like, this is crazy. What are you going to do with him? And he's like, I'm going to show him to my medical friends.
Why does that feel like the scientific community's version of like Dinner for Schmucks?
Yeah, that is funny. Because the people that they have all have these like weird, medical things going on with them.
It's like a
Look
human
at how
being.
weird this guy is.
Yes, it's like one step removed from an old-timey freak show.
Yeah.
It's like a human being that they're presenting for show and tell.
But yeah, Xavier wants to present him to like show that there are people doing these human mutant tests that he knows that people have been doing. And Peter is like, well, hey man, I don't know if Geldoff is going to really want to help out the mutant cause. He seems kind of homophobic. And he uses the word homophobic, not even mutant phobic. But is that like the stupidest argument you've ever heard? Or what do you think of Peter's argument here?
It's interesting because it's about like medical autonomy. and like freedom of choice. And it's like, oh yeah, we can get behind that. But then his reasoning is, yeah, this guy might not consent to like you parading him around because he's racist and hates you. And that's where he loses me.
Well, but it's not, they're not going to experiment on him.
They're not going to experiment on him, but
they might a little like draw some blood, but
he makes a good point, but justifies it with a bad point.
Yeah.
He could have just left it at, don't you think this should be Geldoff's decision?
Yeah, not like, because he's not down for this mutant cause, so he doesn't want to help you guys.
It is so funny reading this whole series, like Long Game, the Ultimate Spider-Man thing, from like an X-Men reader perspective, where you're like super focused on like anytime they talk about mutants, you know, what's the subtext here, what's going on socially with them.
I've called them homophobics multiple times in this issue.
Well, the funny thing is how many times Peter is like wrong about it, or like well-intentioned, but then just like says something pretty stupid because he's 15 and he's not a mutant.
That's what I was about to say. Is I wonder if it's supposed to be like purposefully he's like a kid who doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yes, I think it's so funny, and I also think it's probably a realistic way to portray like the mutant metaphor as like, oh, this is an oppressed population. Is like, yeah, there's going to be some people who really think they're like kind of helping out, and they're just not, you know, they just don't know what they're talking about or doing. And
allies, right?
Yes, and Peter's one of those for a lot of this series.
Hey, Zach, that's what an ally looks like, okay? That's an inside joke from before we started recording, listeners.
Peter's gonna get a shirt from Target that says, my friends are mutants.
I have mutant friends. So Xavier, he says this is the smoking gun that people are experimenting on mutants, and I said, I think Peter's on the wrong side of this argument. And Peter says, isn't this guy going to get a chance at a normal life? And Beast jokes, define normal, because Beast is like looking all blue and Beast-like. And Peter says, define this fuzzball, and knocks him out across the room, grabs Geldoff, and takes off running. On the way, he smacks up Cyclops.
You missed the funniest part of that page.
What did I miss?
Xavier's expression. He's got his fingers like up to his face, but like pointed out, you know, and he's like, oh no, Spider-Man, please be reasonable. And he just looks like the most like silly, like soft, like it's the funniest expression.
I did just see it. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. That is it's like the worst acting, like Macaulay Culkin, but his hands aren't quite on his face. Yeah, he's just like, please, Spider-Man, no.
There's
you're
something
so
about
big and you're strong.
There's something about your hands just hovering under your cheeks, but your fingers are pressed as far back outside as they can be. It's just the funniest expression.
Wow, that is pretty funny. And yeah, Peter takes off running. He knocks out Cyclops. He runs past Kitty Pryde.
Runs through her.
Runs through her.
Because she can phase.
Jumps out the window, smacks onto the ground, and who's he jump out the window with? Not that it matters, but
he runs through Colossus.
Through Colossus out the window.
Who can't phase, so he just knocks him, Colossus, and Geldoff out the window.
And then we see Charles Xavier standing, leaning against a tree branch, and he says, Peter, what good would that do? And we're back in the doctor's office lab place, and Peter, scratching the back of his head, says, it was just a thought. So did Peter have that thought, or did Xavier put that thought in his head?
He had that thought, but Xavier saw it. But again, okay. I love telepathic hijinks. Like,
well,
he had me going. I thought he did it for a second.
So did I. I wish I would have seen the Charles Xavier panel the first time, because maybe it would have been like, that doesn't seem right. But here's my thought: if if Xavier put this in his head, okay, he's putting in the X-Men he's running past. Yeah, he's putting in, you're going to knock out Cyclops. If Spider-Man just had this thought, that means Kitty Pryde, who's not in the room at all, Peter, as he's imagining his escape, is still like, man, I wouldn't mind seeing Kitty Pryde like in her skirt bringing us all lemonade before I leave, you know.
Well, she said,
because
we didn't mention it. We didn't mention it earlier because it doesn't matter, but she's like, I'll go get everyone drinks. So he might have known, oh, she could be coming back with the drinks right now.
Okay. He's not just like,
but
maybe I'll get to run past Kitty Pryde again.
I did notice it too, that it's like, he's thinking about beating up all these guys, but then she's also there, but he just kind of runs.
And he's just her. Like, yeah. I think he's got a crush. I mean,
I don't blame him. I would.
Me neither. Yeah. Yes. I would like her more than Gwen. I do like her more than Gwen. I would rather he date her than Gwen, and maybe even more than Mary Jane. But I don't know.
I've said before, Kitty Pryde is my favorite comic book character, maybe fictional character of all time.
That's funny. Okay, well then I won't root for Spider-Man to steal her from you.
No, it's cool. I'm happily married. Okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Kitty and I have an understanding. We're just friends.
Yeah. So it is kind of funny. Peter's like, it was just a thought, and Xavier says that they're going to treat Geldoff with respect, and real good will come of this. And Geldoff tells Peter that they're cool, and Kitty offers him a ride home. And just then, Peter's like, "Oh my gosh, what time is it?" And he goes back into his house. He sneaks in the basement. He's still thinking about Professor X. I think he can kind of sense that someone's like watching him or listening to him or like close to him. And he thinks it's Professor X in his head. And just then he turns around and he sees Aunt May. And she says, "We need to talk." And boy, I hope that she figures out he's Spider-Man. I just know that she's not going to. And it's going to hurt me. Peter's going to be like, "Aunt May, I have something to tell you. I've wanted to tell you for so long," and then something's going to interrupt them.
Aren't you glad, though, that we didn't have that very long for Mary Jane?
What?
Like, in this series, that's one of my favorite things early on.
Yes, I am.
It doesn't just last forever and ever. It's like, by episode 5 of our podcast, he had told her.
Yep, I do like that. And I want Gwen to know. I just want everyone to know so they can all just be buddies and do Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It gets old after a while, always having the subplot of he has to keep this secret.
Yeah. And I just feel bad for Aunt May. You know, dude, she's worried sick again tonight. There's like a terrorist explosions going on at the school down the block, and Peter has been missing the entire day.
Yeah. I mean, it's ironic.
My mom would die.
Yeah. It's ironic that he's keeping it from her, partially because he thinks like it'd be too hard for her to worry about him going off and being Spider-Man and something bad happening to him. But she's already worrying that.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know that he can defend himself.
Yeah. I thought that this one was good also. A little bit better than the last one. Do we meet Geldoff again? Are we going to hear about what is happening with him?
I honestly don't remember. If we do, it'll be briefly. But my guess is at this point, he transitions into being like a character or an arc in Ultimate X-Men.
Okay. If I haven't read all of with this run, it's that they don't ever finish things out as complete as I would like them to be. Like,
I mean, they can't. They have to keep making issues.
Okay, well, there's just the capitalism in Zach, I guess. We just won't tell a good story because we just got to sell the next one.
I'm just saying, like, you can't really take people off the table here. They were trying in the Ultimate Universe to be like, oh, death is final. So, like,
yeah,
you know, we're not resurrecting people all the time. So the stakes are kind of high. So it's like nothing truly ends because it's like, oh, what are we going to do with this bad guy? Throw him in jail. Okay, then he's going to break out. Oh, what are we going to do with, Geldoff? Ship him off to the X-Men in case we ever want to use him again. And if we don't ever want to use him again, cool, he's still there at the X-Men.
I'd like to know what happened with the genetic testing. See, that's part of the problem with Professor X saying multiple times, I vow to find out what happened, and I will let you guys know what happened.
That's what I'm saying.
I'd love to.
I think at that point, that plot point has been
becomes
handed.
X-Men.
It's been handed over to Ultimate X-Men.
So that's how they get people to buy X-Men.
Yeah,
because they just have to know what happened to Geldoff.
There's always cross promotion in like Marvel comics or DC comics for that matter. There's always going to be like, oh hey, cool, we're gonna show you Moon Knight in this issue. Yeah. So then you want to start buying Moon Knight comics, Well,
it's funny you specifically say Moon Knight because right before you said that, I was even thinking it's kind of like how the MCU is becoming, where you've got to watch this show and go see all these movies for like people you don't care about just so you can know what's happening with the Avengers.
Yep. Yes. From a creative perspective, it's cool because it shows they're all part of the same universe and there would be some overlap. Yeah. But like cynically, you can look at it and be like, they're doing this so they can sell you everything.
Now they're doing quantity and not quality.
Well, yeah, the MCU is.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't want this to turn into that.
I don't think it does.
But you don't like the X-Men universe
in the Ultimate universe. I don't like Ultimate X-Men.
Yeah,
that's true. But I also haven't read all of it. It could have gotten better, but I don't know. I think the X-Men are just a very hard thing to replicate because it took them so long and so many specific things happening to them in the main comics for them to get to the point where they are. It's hard to start the X-Men from scratch and say, well, we want to have Storm there. We want to have Wolverine there. We want to have Nightcrawler and all these people there. It's like it took so long for X-Men to get good and build upon itself.
Yeah.
And people just want to start from like step 10.
Have you seen well here, let's rate this real fast. I said 7.5 out of 10. A little bit better than the last one.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it 8 out of 10. I really liked this one more than the last one, I liked the telepathic bits, him reading the book and him thinking he's running away, and it's just fun.
Okay, 8 out of 10 illegal placenta experiments.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Hey, did you see the costumes for the Deadpool movie?
Yeah, I did. You know why those leaked when they did?
I know it's like writer strike stuff, or what is it? They're all connected.
I think the studio wanted to dangle a carrot in front of fans' faces and be like, look how cool this movie's going to be, and then pull it away and say, well, now production has stopped because of those pesky strikes. Blame the strikers. Yeah. This is why you aren't getting the Wolverine costume anytime soon.
Oh, dude, I hope people don't fall. Good. I would rather not watch it than they all have so much money, obviously. Like that stuff Michael Eisner, the owner of Disney, was saying about we'll just wait them out and eventually they'll become homeless.
I thought talking about the Bob Iger, but still.
Was that it? Wasn't who's Michael Eisner? Maybe he's someone else who said something. I don't know, dude. All these billionaires, they're like the same. But yeah, it's just
so
they make
dystopian.
$240 million a year, and they're like, these guys are being greedy back here. And it's like, how can you not have like the self-reflection? I mean, you either just have no ability. Evil. That's what I was gonna say. Is you either just literally don't know because you just can't look at yourself objectively at all, or you are just like actively like being evil by being like, you guys gotta you're being greedy. I don't get it.
I don't think you get into that seat that they're in if you didn't sell your soul years ago, you know?
Well, I saw some stuff that the movie was already like way behind production, and now they're probably just going to blame the writer's strike for it. Now they'll just be like, "Oh, we have to shut down because of the strike," you know. But they were already like pretty far behind, and like it wasn't moving very. I don't know.
I don't even care about that specific movie in general. What I care about is like the terms that they put forward to like try to end the strike was such bullshit. They were like saying, okay, if you're a background actor, which most of the people in this union are, if you don't have a speaking role, here's how it's going to work now. We pay you for your 1 day on set, your regular rate, but we retain the rights to your face to put you in crowd shots for the rest of time that we don't pay you for.
How could you even think that's like reasonable? I mean, it's just totally unreasonable.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just didn't know what you think of the costumes or anything.
Oh, I mean,
in his yellow suit. That's fun.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm afraid with all these rumors about it that it's like it's going to turn into, you know, they're going to try and cram everything they ever wanted to do with the X-Men in one last time and bring all the actors back. And
I hope it's good.
Yeah, no, don't give me that. Like, as an X-Men fan, I'm telling you, don't give me that.
Yeah.
Just make a fun movie that stands on its own and be proud of it.
A fun Deadpool and Wolverine romp would be awesome. But if in every single scene they're like meeting a new person, they're like, oh, hey, here's Gambit, that one guy from Magic Mike who was supposed to play Gambit, and here's
Channing Tatum.
Yeah, Channing Tatum, and here's, I don't know, whoever all these other people were, you know, the old Fantastic Four and blah, 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 all these random people. I hope it's not that either. I hope it's good.
I mean,
is pretty good.
Clearly, I'm a Marvel fan. I love like Marvel IP and the stories from the comics, and who doesn't want to see that represented on screen? But it's like I'm even getting burnt out with all this, you know, more is more. Let's just live off nostalgia, bring every actor in. It's like, no, if you can focus on one or two characters and just tell a decent story or make a, you know, entertaining movie, that's fine. Just do that. And you can even add in Easter eggs from the comic. Like, I thought Deadpool 2 was really good about it. Like, you know, they put Black Tom Cassidy in there for like 2 scenes. Like, there's 2 Black Tom Cassidy jokes. And I'm like, that's cool. I know as a reader of the comics who that is. That's cool. You don't have to beat me over the head with, oh, look, we got the original actress who played Storm, and now she's got the Storm mohawk. You remember that? And oh, look at that. It's like,
yeah,
you can just make little throwaway jokes that coincide with the comics, and that's how you get your nostalgia, but it doesn't take away from the movie.
Yeah. Well, next week we are on issues 45 and 46.
Yes.
You want to give us a tease? What are we doing next week?
I'll give a long view tease. So after next week. So next week, 45, 46. Cool. Fine. Whatever. After that, we're going to jump into a little mini series called Ultimate 6.
Okay.
And I'll just say the main characters, Spider-Man, the Ultimates, and the Sinister Six.
Oh,
I thought you'd like that.
So when is this set?
Like right around where we're at.
Oh my gosh. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
You've been waiting for that, haven't you?
A little bit. I have been waiting for all these people to meet. I want to see how they interact with each other.
I've actually never read that series. I read like the first 3 issues maybe last week just to see if this is something we should like, you know, dig into. So that's actually going to be a first read for both of us.
Title of the pod.
Yeah. Sick
nice.
plug.
Okay, I like it. That's a good tease. All right. Well, don't skip next week anyway, listeners. But 2 weeks from now, wow, it's going to get good.
Ultimate 6.
Yep. Okay, cool. Well, thank you to all of our listeners and to Zach, of course, but also to Ian Hickey for the music and Alyssa Seaman for the artwork. And everyone for listening and leaving a review and a comment. You can find us at the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. And you can come and leave us a comment on Instagram. Haven't named the kitten yet. If anyone wants to throw in some last minute names, at First Read Podcast, send us an email at firstreadspidey@gmail.com or find us on YouTube at Ultimate Spider-Man Podcast. See you next week, Zach.